Welcome to the Echain, a day in the life demo series from Chainsys. Today we'll take a look at a day in the life of a receivables user within Echain. A typical day in the life of a receivables user in the system could include any of the following processes. First, we'll show you how to create a manual Debtor's Ledger invoice. Then we'll show you how to do cash receipts, credit memos, some important Debtor's Ledger reports, aging analysis, miscellaneous cash receipts from both suppliers and customers, and then also we'll do some month-end processing. First, let's get started with creating a manual Debtor Ledger invoice. We'll navigate up to Finance, Debtor's Ledger, and DL Invoice for this transaction. And this will bring up my DL Invoice screen. I'll go ahead and populate the warehouse information here. Then I'll need to put in the order type and also any narrations. In this case, I'll just type in some generic stuff, invoice for the customer. I'll go ahead and select invoice class. We've got credit, debit, advanced deposit, and then just regular invoice, which is going to be the case here. I'll go ahead and pick up my customer off this pop-up window. And once I select the customer, the bill to location and all of the standard payment terms are going to default in from the customer master. I can save that. And you can see I get a transaction successful notification from Echain. Now I can go ahead and navigate down to the lines. Here I'll place an item description, another simple description, invoice for the customer. I'll put in the quantity as well as the unit price, 300, and then I'll have to go in, put together the GL revenue account. I'm just simply populating the account structure here. And once I'm finished, I'll click Submit. I'll go ahead and save that. Then what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring up the taxes, populate that information for this invoice. So we'll put in the excise duty, and then I'm also going to set a precedence value for each one of these, which just dictates at what level the tax is going to be calculated. So I'll save it and close. And then I'll navigate back to the invoice. Okay, so here's my header level information for the invoice. There's my invoice amount, simply put together by the base amount times the units, and also added with the tax information. And here you can see the actual invoice form that's been generated by the system. Once again, with those amounts, values, taxes, all of the customer information as well on here, as you can see at the top. So let's go ahead and complete the invoice. That way it'll show up once we run a report in the Debtor Ledger. Okay, so the next process we're going to take a look at today is how to do a cash receipt within Echain. Let's get started. Navigate up to Finance again, Debtor's Ledger, and Cash Receipt. Here I'm going to enter in my warehouse, the bank, HDFC. Then I'm going to look up my customer here. Put in the customer's location, the amount of the receipt, then it's also going to ask me for the check number the check date, which I can grab from the calendar, drawn on date, then I can enter in any narrations that I desire to put for this particular transaction. So in this case, something generic, once again, cash receipt made against the customer. It's very straightforward. I'll go ahead and save it now. I get my successful transaction notice, and then I'm going to go ahead and apply the receipt. So I'll have to pick up a specific invoice number to apply this receipt to make sure it's accounted properly in the system. So we'll pick up that DL invoice number, cash applied amount, go ahead and save. So I can actually apply the full amount of the receipt from the invoice, or I can apply partials as well. The next process is going to be looking at credit memos in Echain, and let me take you there right now. We'll navigate to the Finance tab, again to Debtor's Ledger and DL Invoice. It's going to ask me for my warehouse information, the invoice class, in this case it's going to be a credit invoice. Order type will be a standard, and I can enter in my narrations. Credit memo is created. Oh, looks like I had a little typo there, but we'll go ahead and, for the sake of time, keep moving. So I'll populate my customer, and once again, the location and all of the standard payment terms will default in from the customer master. And then I can save this. Here I'll navigate to the line information. We'll go ahead and enter in a description. Credit's been made against the customer. Quantity. Of course, unit price. And then once again, put together the appropriate GL revenue account information in order to pull that number in. Going to be hitting the sales account here. And then we'll submit that and save it. So let's navigate to the invoice here. Go ahead and complete it. That way we know it's going to show up once we run a report. Now let me show you how to run some important Debtor's Ledger reports. I'm going to go up to the Reports Center in Echain. Navigate down to Debtor's Ledger Reports and to Debtor's Ledger. So we'll open up our DL report window, and I'll populate the warehouse information again. And then I'm going to go ahead and select a date range I want to run this report for. Just going to be a single day in this case, and for a single customer as well. Put in the customer site. Here you can see Debtor's Ledger report for this customer. Got all of the appropriate information here, check numbers, currencies, the amounts, and then of course closing balance there at the bottom. But here I can actually drill down, and through this report I'm able to see additional information, as well as navigate to the actual screen, Debtor Ledger invoice screen,